our food is very toxic. There's a lot of pesticides and different ingredients that are not allowed in Europe.
Dr. Wendy Myers, ND, is a naturopathic doctor and founder of Myers Detox.com. And she is an internationally recognized expert on heavy metal detox, anti-aging, and bioenergetics. She is a sought-after speaker, #1 best-selling author, and the host of the top 50 rated podcast, the Myers Detox Podcast. She is a certified holistic health coach. She has a certification in hair mineral analysis, functional diagnostic nutrition, and as an NES health practitioner. She has a detox protocol and a mitochondrial protocol. She is on a mission to educate and inspire the globe about topics related to anti-aging, detoxing from our increasingly toxic world to combat disease and increase longevity.
There's 100,000 chemicals roughly that have been created, 40,000 are still in use, and there's dozens of heavy metals. This stuff is accumulating and impacting every different organ system. We still have to take care of our physical body, so I still take supplements, but I also...
Hi, my name is Chris Burris. I'm a longevity expert and the chief scientist at a lab focused on a longevity molecule. My primary focus is to help people live longer and better lives with science. Make sure to subscribe and share so you and your friends can live longer and better, so you and your friends can live beyond the norms.
Hi, and welcome to the next episode of the Live Beyond the Norms Health and Longevity podcast. We are surrounded by toxins. Everywhere you look, everywhere you read. If it's not new data about an old toxin, it's new data about a new toxin. Maybe it's just toxic relationships. How do we get rid of toxins? There is every manner of cleanse that promises to detox your body. Juice cleanses, green tea cleanses, colon cleanses, coffee enemas, and there's even oil pulling, detoxifying foot pads, and I even found something called snake stones. I don't know if we'll get there. I think we intuitively know that we are constantly being bombarded by toxins and that we need to figure out how to manage these toxins, but how do we make sense of it all? Our next guest is here to take care of us. Dr. Wendy Myers, ND, is a naturopathic doctor and founder of Myers Detox.com. And she is an internationally recognized expert on heavy metal detox, anti-aging, and bioenergetics. And the mitochondria we just were talking prior to us getting started. She is a sought-after speaker, #1 best-selling author, and the host of the top 50 rated podcast, the Myers Detox Podcast. She is a certified holistic health coach. She has a certification in hair mineral analysis, functional diagnostic nutrition, and as an NES health practitioner. And as I mentioned, she is a naturopathic doctor. She has a detox protocol and a mitochondrial protocol, which I don't think we're going to be able to get to today, although we have extra time. She is on a mission to educate and inspire the globe about topics related to anti-aging, detoxing from our increasingly toxic world to combat disease and increase longevity. Dr. Myers, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So you have so much education in your kind of health repertoire. You've created your own detox protocol, the Myers Detox Protocol. You have 543 episodes of your podcast. Health is clearly a passion of yours. If you were to look back at growing up, what do you think influenced you to have this passion for health, wellness, and helping others?
Well, I came with my own health journey. After I had my daughter about 15 years ago, the mommy brain just never returned. I was having the mommy brain after getting pregnant. And after a little while, I thought, I don't think this is mommy brain. And I just had a decline in my health. And so I knew intuitively something was wrong because I was doing everything. My full-time job and obsession was health, reading about it, health practice. I had checked every box. Amazing diet, food from the farmer's market, all organic, freshly prepared. I made my daughter's baby food fresh. Just everything, the supplements, the exercise, you name it. And a lot of people are doing that and still feel like crap. And that's exactly where I was. I wasn't sleeping good. I was just angry, having bouts of anger, and just not feeling like myself. Memory was just terrible. And I was only 37 at the time. I'm 52 now. And so I just went to my doctor, figure out what's wrong with me. And she said, I just had all these issues going on. And I started doing some research on Dr. Google and found hair mineral analysis, to test for heavy metals and minerals. I did a test. I had all these heavy metals, and I was like, where in the hell did I get all this stuff? I mean, I knew sushi was a culprit, and I'd heard about mercury, I'd heard about lead, and I'd heard about Flint, Michigan, but I didn't think these things really applied to me. And when I started researching it more and started getting more into detox, I was just like, oh my God, this is it. This is what's going on with me. And there are other things I discovered, working on emotional trauma and things like that, which we'll get into. But, I realized that heavy metals and chemicals were such a huge toxic burden that everyone is dealing with, unless they have like these Olympic detox livers and detox genetics, grandpa that drank and smoked until 100, like George Burns or whatever, but that's probably not you. But there are some people, it's like a bell curve, some people that can't detox. Those are the sicker individuals, the complex chronic illness. We have the bell curve, people on the other spectrum can drink and smoke and not have any consequences whatsoever. They just can detox real fast. But today, we're exposed to, I think in the US, there's 100,000 chemicals roughly that have been created, 40,000 are still in use, and there's dozens of heavy metals. This stuff is accumulating and impacting every different organ system. And then on top of that, my father was diagnosed with esophageal cancer, and I was doing a lot of research on cancer underlying root causes. And he unfortunately passed away, 6 months after his diagnosis. And so that really got me going on that kind of line of research. And then my daughter was diagnosed with autism. And so I just had kind of like one thing after another, like what is going on, and trying to figure out that puzzle. And really it just all comes back to toxins and further research. Heavy metals and chemicals impact our mitochondria, our hormones, diabetes, insulin resistance, obesity, brain health issues, and all these things that are impacting really every family. Every family has a sick family member that's on all these different medications, that people are getting diagnosed with health issues earlier and earlier. We're having a crisis with fertility around the world. 1 in 6 couples are infertile. Like, what in the hell is going on? So it's my mission to educate people about toxins, what they're doing to our body, and what you can do to empower yourself, remove these toxins in our different organ systems, so that you can live a long, healthy, disease-free, medication-free life.
All right. So I love that. I don't know if you still eat sushi. Sushi was a big, like, regular for you, and then you knew that might be something. Hopefully we'll get to emotional trauma. I'm a big believer that there are things to deal with there. I want to peel back this kind of journey, because you started my question was kind of what in your background brought you to this point, and you started that you were already focused on health. Like, where'd you get,
Yes.
were your parents doctors, or where do you think this focus and kind of intent from the early days, and then we can start hopping into toxins?
Yeah, I mean, my father loved to read. I mean, he read like 2 books a week, and he was always talking to me about health, and he didn't really practice it, but he liked to read about it. It was like health porn or something.
Shot of whiskey and a good health read.
Yeah, but he loved food, so he'd teach me about cooking, and then he'd teach me about exercise, and we were reading the Zone diet and the Pritikin diet and just all these different diets out there. He was always reading about all of them. So he just, and I just started learning about health and was very passionate about it. I, started working out with a trainer in my teens, and just was always super into health and diet and all that stuff. And so it just kind of all started from there as a teenager.
Yeah. So a great way to bond with Dad. That makes perfect sense. All right. So what are the top toxins that we need to be mindful of? And I have to imagine, I mean, with, microplastics I feel like have popped onto the radar, I don't know, in the last 6 months, maybe 9 months, depending on where you jump onto the curve. So maybe talk a little bit of like, what are the ones you like historically have to look at, and then here are some of the new ones, because I feel like they're, like I said in the introduction, like it's new data about an old toxin or new data about a new toxin.
Yeah, well, glyphosate really is the most pervasive toxin that's really impacting people a lot. There's been 19 billion pounds since the 90s that have been unleashed into our environment.
Of something that
And
did
so,
not exist before.
yes. And so that's since the 90s. And since then, we've seen a dramatic increase in all different kinds of health issues. So what glyphosate does is it destroys your gut bacteria. It impacts, it chelates, removes all of your minerals, a lot of minerals from your body. That's how it kills weeds, is it pulls the minerals out of your body. Minerals are the spark plugs of the body. We have to have minerals in order to detox and push out and displace heavy metals. And glyphosate just does a lot of other things as well. It's just really a whole textbook that really can be written about what glyphosate does to the body. And Dr. Stephanie Seneff and Jeffrey Smith do a brilliant job of describing that. There's a whole book Dr. Stephanie Seneff wrote on that. So the other things are cesium and thallium. So these are metals that I didn't see 15 years ago so much, but I see it on almost every single person's heavy metals tests. And so people have probably never heard of these, but I feel like the thallium is found in petroleum. So it's naturally found in petroleum. So that gets unleashed from car exhaust and things like that. Cesium is found, it's being unleashed into our environment from nuclear accidents and nuclear testing, of which there's a lot more of that than is reported in the news. And so these are very potent mitochondrial poisons. And so they do a lot of different, cause a lot of different havoc in the body. And then there's the PFAS, found in the nonstick pans and, found in, the majority of our water. And it's used in a lot of industrial applications, waterproofing, things like that. And then the endocrine disrupting chemicals are a huge problem. Organochlorine, pesticides, BPAs, BPS, that's in BPA-free products, petroleum-based products like perfumes, that's in everything. And these are known endocrine disruptors. They also increase insulin resistance, contribute to diabetes as well, which is a huge problem. And so those are really the most problematic, but there's many more to talk about.
When you were on your first journey, right? So you took this hair toxic test or toxic hair test. I don't know, that sounds funny. What was the first? So you mentioned mercury, but what were the kind of first things like? Oh, I've got to deal with these, and let's just jump in right there. Like, how did you kind of initially deal with them? And frankly, it was new to you, so maybe some of the stuff you tried early on was like, oh, that didn't really work. Here's what does work.
Yeah, well, my protocol, working with my practitioner, was just minerals. I mean, literally just taking minerals, mainly magnesium, because that's needed for all of the detox, pathways in the body, taking calcium to displace lead out of the body, which everybody has, taking zinc, which will detox mercury and other metals. And so it's really primarily mineral based. I wasn't taking any kind of binders or anything like that, which was, a mistake, which I have added later. And, but I was also doing infrared saunas, as well. But I've added other detox protocols, including detoxing bioenergetically, which is an advanced topic that we can get to later.
So you mentioned red light therapy. This was a while ago. So that was like a red light sauna. You were ahead of the game at that point. Like, was it hard to even get access to a red light sauna?
No. I mean, there's red light therapy. I just want to distinguish. Red light therapy is amazing, but this is more like infrared sauna. So it's using like, near and far infrared spectrums. Like I was using a bulb sauna, which I prefer. Using saunas with a bulb, I prefer that. I think our bodies deal with that better. It's using the full spectrum of the sun, all of the different infrared spectrum given to us by the sun, versus a sauna that's only emitting like far infrared. So that's like the typical sauna you get into, and it's kind of like I don't know, like the wooden saunas that people get into. So the red bulb saunas just are, in my opinion, superior.
Yeah. my wife has a spa, and you should come by, right? We're in the same city. But it's got those kind of filaments, heating filaments. So it's not the bowls, but it's the heating filaments, and so it does a good job getting hot, right? Like I enjoy the sauna experience, and I don't do it enough.
Yeah, any sauna is great.
Yeah.
Any sauna is good, and we'll talk about that research and why it increases longevity and so important. But yeah, any sauna you're getting into is going to do a good job.
So you get this hair test, you start kind of increasing your minerals, right? Magnesium, calcium, zinc, and you start seeing some positive results that are like pretty quickly. How long did that take? And then when did you start, maybe you didn't, you plateaued and started doing further research?
Yeah, so I really, within the first 30 days, I think it was really mainly the magnesium. I was sleeping better. I just felt more relaxed and calm. You need minerals to calm your nervous system down. And so a lot of people feel stressed and anxious just because they're mineral deficient. I started having detox symptoms too. I'd start have little bouts of anxiety or little bouts of depression or things like that as, metals were exiting my body. It's not always fun, but that's where binders come in. That's why it's so important to do binders on a detox program to manage and mitigate or even completely eliminate detox symptoms.
Wow.
Later, I was adding in coffee enemas. And then I started just maybe 5 years ago, added detox foot baths, which I love for many, many reasons. Some of them are, it's just like with any protocol, some of them are complete garbage and don't work. And there are other, foot baths or infrared saunas or supplements even that are high quality and they do work and do, detox your body.
So did you reach a plateau? Because you're learning that you needed to have a binder. That sounds like kind of retroactively going, oh, I could have done that better. Did you reach this plateau and then started digging in more? Like when after this process, so you're having your own health challenges and you're like, I've got all these toxins, you start dealing with those, and then this starts to become a passion for you, right? Like this starts to be like, I can help people, like everybody needs help with this, like this stuff is everywhere. What does that look like, right? So you start with minerals, you start incorporating binders for yourself. Like talk a little bit more about that journey.
Yes. Well, you know what? I think for several years, I just took minerals for the most part. And it's not that I reached a plateau in my detox. I was still eliminating a lot of metals. But I started doing different heavy metals tests and seeing other metals that I had. And I realized the minerals were not going to detox cesium. They were not going to detox uranium. They were not going to detox other or even chemicals that I knew I had in my body that I wasn't testing for. So for me, I realized there was another level that I needed to get to and supplements to take for the cesium, uranium, and other metals that I had in my body. And so that's when I started adding modified citrus pectin. That's a great kind of overall detoxifier for a lot of different chemicals. And I wanted to take something that was absorbing toxins as they were being released from my fat tissue, because that's where we store a lot of these fat soluble chemicals that we're exposed to. And then I discovered bioenergetics and started using that. And I like bioenergetics because there's a lot of, and I'll get into what that is in a second, but there's a big population of people that are so sick and so sensitive, they can't take supplements. They can only eat a handful of foods. They try to do a detox and they're just destroyed. Like they can't do it. I'm like, what the heck do I do with these people? So I need to put them on a gentle protocol that's really addressing that their body isn't functioning properly. Their body doesn't have it's lost the ability to detox effectively. And that's why they have complex chronic illness. And so bioenergetics is something where you do a scan and and this is like a biofeedback scan, essentially, where you're figuring out where you have energetic blocks and issues on your different organs, where you have emotional trauma, the specific type of emotional trauma you have. Everything has a frequency that can be measured. Everything on the planet. Your moods, your emotions, where you have energetic blocks in your chakras, your meridians, etc. And the primary protocol I use or software I use is called Ness Health. They just changed their brand to Energy for Life. And so NES or nesshealth.com, that is the software that I use. It's very sophisticated. It has 50 years of research behind it. They're always doing new studies. And so for me, it's been a very profound software or protocol that I use for myself. I've been using it for about 9 years. And I've coached Dr. Mercola on it, Ben Greenfield, a lot of different people in the health industry. And it's they use it, they still to this day. And so it's a protocol that can be used to optimize functioning of your body so that you are able to detox, that you, so it's just very, very, very powerful because we have this energy field, and when you put new information or new operating instructions into your energy field, that is what conducts physical functioning. So if you can just put new information into your energy field, you can correct your body's physical functioning. And so that's what I use. It's what I recommend to everybody, but it's especially where I start with people if they're too sick to do traditional detoxes.
Yeah, so that's an approach to really start to get the body to function naturally, like in its own capability, and then you'll get a little bit more aggressive. Talk about that you mentioned before we started. You like to talk about mechanisms, like so these are going to be like mechanisms that these toxins are problematic, and then mechanisms of these solutions and how those tend to work.
Yeah, so if we're talking about, say, toxins that fuel hormone havoc, for instance, that dramatically impact our hormones and fertility, there's a lot of toxins like, heavy metals, mercury, lead, thallium, arsenic, aluminum, tin, cesium, plasticizers like BPA, BPS, forever chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, etc. A lot of beauty product preservatives like phthalates and parabens. So what a lot of different toxins do, especially the heavy metals, they inhibit the function of hydroxylase enzymes. And these are within the adrenal cortex, the sex organs that make sex hormones. And so these hydroxylase enzymes are very susceptible to heavy metal inhibition. And so when say, let's look at our DHEA pathway. And so DHEA is what's needed to make testosterone, which is then converted into estrogen, et cetera. A lot of different pathways there. So if you don't make enough DHEA, because that production is being inhibited by heavy metals and chemicals, you're not going to make enough testosterone and estrogen. We have a huge problem with men not making enough testosterone, and women, and a lot of women that are low in estrogen, but they're really high in xenoestrogens or toxins that mimic estrogen, like the list I just mentioned. These are all very estrogenic toxins. And so, and there's other ways like mercury accumulates in the pineal gland, which is the master hormone gland. That's kind of like the conductor of our complex hormonal system. So mercury throws a wrench in that. And it's why, hormone replacement doesn't always work. It can be, I take hormone replacement, and I think it's so important for people to check their hormones and replace them as needed. But you also have to, for many people, I don't want just a Band-Aid, but, I'm menopausal, so I don't make the hormones even if I could, like when I was younger, but you still need to remove the toxins that are interfering in hormone production in the first place, because they're still going to interfere in the conversion of and production of other hormones that you need, like your thyroid hormones. And there's, women have 300 different hormones. So women are very, very complex hormonally. And then there's like enzymes that are being poisoned that convert hormones to other hormones. And so it's just these toxins really throw a big wrench into our hormonal production.
One of the things that you mentioned earlier, and I wanted to touch on it, because I think you've talked about it on either another show. I think Ben Greenfield's a big fan of coffee enemas. What is the thought process about coffee enemas? Like, how do they work? Like, what are the benefits? What are the experiences that people are having with coffee enemas?
So let me just preface this with, I can't live without coffee enemas. Okay, if I had to pick one detox protocol that I could only do, it would be coffee enemas, because 100 million people in the US alone have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, where they have fat accumulating in their liver. And these are just people with a diagnosable health issue, not to mention the other people who, maybe their enzymes aren't optimal, or their detox ability is compromised genetically, or people that just have a big toxin overload, their liver just can't get to all of it. And the liver does 500 plus different functions in the body. You need your liver to work. And it's just largely overlooked. I mean, when you're doing your health protocols and eating, you're not thinking about your liver. Like, people are like, oh, let's eat these liver foods, or let's take this liver supplement. I mean, it's just kind of, people aren't really thinking about it, but they need to if they want to look and feel good and improve their detoxability and prevent a lot of health issues, not to mention the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So coffee enemas can go in and kind of mechanically purge the liver, and so it can, increase bile production, which is the body's natural binder to bind on to toxins and help the body excrete them. So every time you do a coffee enema, you're kind of flushing the liver, and then it can get to the next batch of toxins. You're also kind of irritating the liver. So it has this kind of like a really good, healthy, stressful hormetic effect, where it produces more glutathione, and it just does some other things. It dilates all the capillaries and really kind of hits the reset button on your liver. And so how it works exactly is, you take the caffeine rectally, and that caffeine, and there's palmitic acid and other things in the coffee that are beneficial, but that caffeine goes through the portal vein to the liver, opens and dilates all those capillaries, and then we kind of do the flush. And so it's cleaning out the colon, yes, and that's helpful, because a lot of people have trouble going to the bathroom. They're just, if they are not going to the bathroom twice a day, if you're not pooping twice a day, you're considered constipated. And so all that fecal matter has toxins in it that can reabsorb through the colon into your body if you're not constantly going to the bathroom. So it's helpful in that way, and really important if you're constipated. But like I said, it just really helps to, the main reason to do the coffee enemas is to hit that reset button on the liver and to flush it. And it can really help reverse non-alcoholic fatty liver disease as well.
What's the protocol, right? Is this a once a week thing, once a month thing? What is your basis? Like, I'm having a cup of coffee. Do I also need a coffee enema?
Yeah. Yes. So the coffee is, so I'd recommend doing a coffee enema starting with once a week. And then, if you're doing a really intense detox, like some people are, it's just their full-time obsession. They're just, they're doing infrared saunas. They're taking all kinds of detox supplements. They're hitting it hard. You might need one every day, but you can get too much of a good thing. Coffee enemas can deplete minerals, like drinking coffee can. So you have to be careful. I like the pace of every 2 to 3 days. I think that's optimal, and you kind of have a recovery period where your body can just process all this stuff. But they're great to relieve detox symptoms as well if you're feeling like foggy, or just kind of like you're having anxiety, or whatever's going on with, you're constipated, you ate a huge meal, or your family dragged you to a restaurant, you're just really full. You can use coffee enemas to help to relieve all those issues.
And is there a special coffee? Do you order this online? What does that look like?
Yeah, you can use special coffee enema coffees. There's ones that they're really light roast, and that increases the palmitic acid. They have more of the ingredients you need to have the best coffee enema possible to get the most benefits out of them. I just use regular coffee. I use Purity coffee. It's, mold-free, pesticide-free, because coffee is very high in pesticides because it's not considered like a food product. So you really want to use organic coffee, but any kind is fine as long as it's organic.
Hey, super quick break from the podcast. Hopefully you're loving it. This is a way you can support the podcast and take advantage of a great offer. We're offering 50% off of one of our MCT bottles. MCT is an amazing oil. Add the ESS 60 molecule to it. It's even more amazing. All you got to do is leave a review on iTunes, send us a notification that you've left that review. We'll get you a coupon code that'll get you 50% off of our MCT oil and free shipping. Back to the podcast.
Next, let's get back to kind of toxins. Some toxins are obesogens, things that promote obesity. Which ones have this impact, and what is the impact of obesity on longevity?
Yeah, so obviously, the results, the jury is in on this. Obesity, is
Bad.
definitely dramatically decreases lifespan. Yep. And you don't really have to be that overweight, also. So really important to, at least in the United States, our food is very toxic. There's a lot of pesticides and different ingredients that are not allowed in Europe. And so, in the United States, 2/3 of people are obese, overweight. If you're overweight, most likely you have insulin resistance, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, predisposed to diabetes. And so there's a correlation there to toxins. And so toxins that you're eating, and actually the number one exposure is the air. So that's the number one entry point of toxins. So you're getting all this stuff and you're storing it in fat. And so your body has to accumulate fat to store all this crap. But obesogens also interfere in your blood sugar regulation. Toxins are the number one cause of insulin resistance and diabetes because of some of these mechanisms. They poison enzymes in our pancreas. They poison our beta islet cells. And there's some specific toxins that do that better than others. And so, when you're losing weight, you need to be mindful of this and do a detox, and also be aware that your resistant weight loss, part of that is because your body, if you don't have the nutrients, if you don't have, you're not doing detox protocols to help the liver, whatnot, you're going to be at a huge disadvantage to weight loss because your body doesn't want to let those fat cells go. And so there's just there's a lot of different mechanisms whereby our metabolism is poisoned by toxins. And so, there's the main ones are like nicotine, MSG, arsenic, atrazine, DDT, high fructose corn syrup, which is high in mercury, preservatives like, parabens, fragrance, perfume, phthalates, plastic hardeners, the BPA, and glyphosate those are all the biggest contributors, but there's many more.
So it is I think the second time you've mentioned perfumes. Not on my radar. Talk to me about that, and what's your solution? Or be European.
Yeah. Perfumes are like secondhand smoke. I mean, they're mostly petroleum-based products, and they have phthalates in them that keep the fragrance in your hair, the dryer sheets. They keep that fragrance in your clothes. And so they're really a huge problem because they are synthetic. They can have hundreds of chemicals in them. And so you're breathing that in, and you're spraying it on your skin, which absorbs into your skin. So I avoid perfume like the plague that it is. And, the solution is to do the essential oil-based perfumes, buy beauty products, buy laundry detergents with natural essential oils. Those are great. You can use those all day long. They have so many benefits, but you've gotta, anything that says the word fragrance on it, it's gotta go. Any kind of the typical perfumes that are sold everywhere, they are just interfering in your hormones. They're making you fat. They're promoting insulin resistance. They're just a big problem.
We have a skin product, and the scent is actually damask rose oil, right? So I would like to say that was because we were extremely intelligent when we were putting it together, but it smelled good. So, and it turns out to be an essential oil as opposed to a perfume. So I'm excited about that. You talked about the body wanting to hold on to fat cells, right? And my understanding, I don't even remember where I read this whole article, is like you probably don't want to do a fast, right? If you haven't detoxed, or there's this kind of juxtaposition of, losing weight is great, but when you're fasting, your body's rapidly dropping fat cells, and fat tends to be where you store a lot of toxins. And so then people will have these kind of adverse effects when they're going through, a fast. Talk a little bit about that, like what toxins tend to get stored in fats, and then, what are, and maybe similar protocols, but what are some of the protocols to kind of manage this if you've decided that you want to go on a detox, on a fasting, some sort of, 3 or 5 day fast?
Yeah, so you can do fasting will release fat, but so will going on a keto diet as well. So a lot of people talk about the low carb flu, and I always thought about that. I don't think there's like so much a low carb flu as these are detox symptoms. You start getting headaches, you're releasing this garbage into your system. And a lot of people don't have the antioxidants. They don't have the glutathione, the vitamin C, and all the things that they need to process and eliminate this stuff, because it's all used up. It's all used up because we're exposed to so many toxins on a daily basis. So fasting will just exacerbate, flooding your body with even more toxins that you can't handle. So really important to do a binder. Like, I love your product, My Vital C, something like that as a fantastic binder to just mop all this stuff up and assist your body in excreting it. And so that's essentially what you have to do is if you're doing any kind of fast. Or for me, I tried for years to do fasting, and 1:00, I would just get this horrible headache. And I just was like, no, don't think I'm going to try that. I'm not a huge, I know there's so many benefits, but I really struggle with it personally. So I haven't really done much of it more than, say, 24 hours. But yeah, binders can really facilitate your fast.
Yeah, I know my wife used to struggle, if she didn't eat at fixed times, and now she's doing intermittent fasting and does well, and, will sometimes go longer, than the whatever 16/8 that we tend to do, 18/6, whatever. But so some of that can just be getting used to it, or maybe like you're getting some of these toxins out of your body, and then you can manage it. Do you have any sense for what percentage of people carry a toxic load? You talked about like maybe the Olympian livers that are able to just clean those individuals out. Like, do you have a sense? I imagine anybody who's coming to you is toxic. Like, you probably don't get the odd case of like, I'm coming to you because I have all these problems and I'm not toxic. Do you have a sense for that? Is there any data around that?
Well, you know what? I don't know if I've seen data, but just common sense with the amount of toxins that we have in our air and our food and our water and all the products that we're using all the time. I just don't see how anyone doesn't, we all have a toxic load. It's absolutely impossible. Many people just don't manifest symptoms until they reach kind of a breaking point where they start getting fatigue and brain fog and other symptoms, and they just kind of attribute it to getting older. It's really just their toxic load has reached a point where they're starting to manifest symptoms. And so when you look at all the symptoms people have and the diagnoses that people have and the research that I've done over the last 15 years, every symptom that people have or diagnoses can be directly tied in the research to a heavy metal or a chemical. And so I don't think people realize, I have on my website, I have hundreds and hundreds of articles with all the research behind it, linking, thyroid issues, adrenal issues, the hormone issues, the diabetes, the brain health issues, Alzheimer's, and high blood pressure, and all these different health issues, linking them to toxins. So, I don't think anyone has been able to escape breathing or eating food or bathing in toxic shower water And so this stuff is in your body. If you feel like you're relatively healthy, it's really that I think people just haven't reached like kind of that tipping point where they're manifesting symptoms yet. But I think people don't tie like their allergies and just and other different health issues in children and young adults, or their fatigue, their brain fog, and just very subclinical symptoms that could have so many different underlying root causes. My goal is to educate people that toxins are very likely an underlying root cause.
So I've seen that you had one video. You just kind of laid out your kind of detox protocol. It looked pretty simple. Maybe we'll get into the details here. Before we do that, I've had conversations with people, and there's, people in the biohacking space talking about we've got these detoxifying agents. And one, we mentioned diatomaceous earth. I'd love to hear your opinion on that. Another is like zeolite, which, and then another one is kind of very famous as activated charcoal. But these, in my mind, like I usually try and break things down very simply. A source of mercury in your system for a lot of people is amalgams in their teeth, right? Like filling their cavities. And so now you've got mercury floating around in your system, and then you're throwing in these detox agents, which maybe in a beaker do a great job, but if they're going through your system, they're in your gut, they're not getting through your gut lining. So how are those things helping? Can you speak to a little bit about that, and then and what are kind of solutions that can actually get into your system and do some of the binding that you'd like to do?
I really like your product, My Vital C, because as you've done so much research on this, it does cross the gut, get into the blood, crosses the blood-brain barrier. So that's really like the top of my list. I also like modified citrus pectin. That's also a fantastic one as well. But, there are a lot of them that don't cross that gut lining unless you have leaky gut, which is a huge, huge problem. So that might be benefiting some people with getting products into their bloodstream, but
what a brilliant irony, right? Like there's no way this should work, right? Because
Yeah.
you have this gut lining that prevents all of these things from getting into your system, but you happen to have, gut permeability, which is a detrimental and maybe some source of, extra toxins in your system. But now because of those holes, you can actually get in there and manage them. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's not ideal, but a lot of people really struggle with maintaining the integrity of their gut lining for a lot of different reasons. It's very ATP dependent. So if your mitochondria are not working optimally because of toxins, you're going to struggle to maintain that gut lining for that reason alone. Not to mention the glyphosate that decimates your gut bacteria to neutralize different toxins in your gut. But there's a lot of different things working against our gut lining. So unfortunately, that's a whole other podcast. And for other mechanisms are sweating. So you can, sweat to get to all those toxins that maybe some other binders you're taking can't get to. And then there's foot baths, which will pull toxins using charge to pull toxins out of your system. And then minerals will also push out and displace toxins from all of your heavy metals from different binding sites. So, you want to do a little bit of all of the above, optimizing liver function and taking the correct binders.
What's the best way to test? I mean, so one thing is like part of me so one of my trainings, like I studied mechanical engineering, and one of the things we learn is like, if what you're going to do isn't changed by asking the answer to the question, don't bother answering the question, don't bother asking the question, right? So if I should be doing, the Myers Detox Protocol on Mondays or Tuesdays or every day of the week, whether I have high toxic load in my system or not, then maybe I don't test and I just do that. So that's kind of one point that maybe you could speak to. And then what is the best way to really test the toxic load that any individual might be carrying?
Yes. So, you can do all kinds of detox protocols and not test. You can do all this stuff I'm talking about. You don't have to do testing because you have the toxins. Like it's impossible not to have them. So the thing that's good about testing is that you can see what you have, what heavy metals you have and take specific targeted nutrients that are known and shown in the research to remove those. Because some people have some very weird toxins that only a very specific supplement removes. So that can be really important, especially for, I have had clients that have like beryllium toxicity, or they'll have super high thallium, and you've got to take, for the thallium citrus pectin for that. So there's just, there's lots of different examples like that. But for, so it's good to get a baseline with tests with hair mineral analysis, or ideally, you can do urine testing, stool testing, some blood testing for lead is best, because, I start with hair mineral analysis because that gives me the most information, and it's a 3-month average of what the body is pushing out into the hair. And there's a lot of indirect information we can also deduce from a hair test that shows toxicity levels that aren't apparent on the hair test themselves. It's kind of an art to read them. And, but no heavy metals test is going to show all the toxins you have in your body, because different metals exit differently in your body. Like some only come out in the urine. Cadmium we see mainly in the stool. Unless you're like Snoop Dogg and you're smoking marijuana all day long, then we would see cadmium in the hair mineral analysis. And we know lead, that I very rarely see lead on a hair test, but everybody's got it. It's just packed away in your bones. Your body, aluminum too. Your bones are little garbage cans that the body uses to store toxins away. So a lot of toxins we have are not going to be readily available and seen on any heavy metals test. And so that's why it's good to do testing maybe every 6 months to 12 months to kind of check in, see what maybe new toxins are popping up, and what, kind of course correct and take different supplements that are specific to that toxin. And, I'm just shocked that, I still have different toxins coming out of me on my metals test. And I've done a lot of detoxing over the last 15 years, but we're constantly exposed to stuff. I mean, it's just the reality of modern life, the industry that's drudging this stuff up, all the different metals mining, and just the industry, the smog, the smokestacks. It's just getting into our environment. So you don't have to test, but it's for me, it's, in my opinion, it's better to do a sniper approach to detox and supplementation when you know exactly what toxins you have, versus a shotgun approach, which is just, let's throw the kitchen sink at it and hope it works. But many people can, when they're first starting out, they can definitely do a broad detox protocol, like just take like C60 and take some antioxidants and do saunas and coffee enemas, foot baths, and do that for a few years, and then you can start testing. Okay. So you don't have to test.
So one thing that I heard there, which I think is really intriguing, is that smoking a blunt with Snoop Dogg detoxifies through your hair. I think that's if you ever have that opportunity, then maybe you should go detox.
Yeah, I had a personal trainer once. I'm like, let's do a hair test on you, and we did a test, and his cadmium was through the roof, and I couldn't. And he said, I smoke marijuana every single day, and I have for years. And his dad was actually a physician and looked at that, and he was like freaked out. And he stopped smoking pot. So he stopped smoking marijuana after that, because it scared him straight, I guess.
Cadmium doesn't sound like something that you want to have in your body regularly.
No, cadmium causes more cancers than all of the other heavy metals combined. Wow. And that's why smokers get cancer, because that's the main, that's what tobacco sucks up from the soil, is cadmium, and marijuana does the same thing. Interesting.
Are there things out there that are promoted as detoxifiers that just don't work at all?
Yeah, so juice cleanses. Not a huge fan of those. You're not going to make any progress with a 3-day juice cleanse. Like, every little bit helps. And I like juice because it's very mineral dense, like celery juice and things like that. But just doing a few day juice cleanse is not going to, you still need binders. You need fiber to detox. Like, fiber binds to heavy metals. You need binders. So you might do a 3-day juice fast and then still have that problem we talked about before, where you're releasing different toxins, but they can't exit. So you just feel miserable. And, so juice cleanses are also, they can have a very heavy pesticide load if the vegetables are not organic. So most of the stuff out there, people are drinking just pesticide liquid, so it's very concentrated when you're doing 6 pounds of vegetables in this one bottle of juice. It's really, especially celery is very high in pesticides. It's part of the dirty dozen. Have to be careful with that. Also the vegan diet, that does not detox you. I think vegan diets are dangerous. I don't recommend them for many, many reasons. People think of them as they might do vegan or not eat meat to do like a cleanse, or they'll do a vegan diet because they think that it's healthier. They're avoiding all the toxins in meat, et cetera, et cetera. But we need sulfur-containing amino acids for our liver to function, for our liver to detox. You don't have those in the vegan diet. Those are in animal products. You can get them in the different vegetables like the broccoli and cauliflower and things like that. But you still need certain amino acids that are found in animal products and butter and things like that to effectively detox. And so what happens over time is your liver will lose its ability to detox effectively. And what you find is that this population can essentially be building up toxins in their body, say more than the next person. And so it's kind of like a catch-22 where people, they might vilify animal protein as having a lot of glyphosate and having a lot of different toxins in them, but vegetables have tons of toxins as well. And no matter what you do to control your intake of toxins, you're still breathing in air, which is the number one source of toxins in our environment. So the vegan diet is not facilitating detoxification at all.
We've mentioned it enough. It certainly has been on so many radars, glyphosate. What do you do about glyphosate?
Well, you can take glycine. So that's an amino acid that you can take that's great at detoxing glyphosate. The number one thing, though, is just eating organic diet. My clients that are eating really clean, eating organic, they have very low levels or no levels of glyphosate. And that level can come down pretty quickly.
That's really exciting because there's a part of me when I'm in the organic section going, are they just labeling this organic? Because the sticker, brings an extra, brings in more dollar signs. And so that makes me wonder about that.
No, it's important to do. It's important to eat organic.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that's certainly what I've been focused on. And I just, because we talked about it already, dig in a little bit to diatomaceous earth. Like you have very particular feelings about this. And I think some people sell it as a detox protocol. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would never, ever personally take diatomaceous earth for many reasons. So there's safer, better ways to do a detox. And, some people take it to do a parasite cleanse. But diatomaceous earth, it's like when you look at it under a microscope, it has these very sharp barbs. So it looks kind of like this, like it just has these sharp barbs on it. It looks kind of like a crab or something. Yep. So if you don't have a good gut lining or you don't have a healthy gut, like say you react to a lot of different foods, you have a lot of food sensitivities, that's a big sign you have leaky gut. That diatomaceous earth is going to cross into your bloodstream and rip apart your arteries. And I've seen this under a microscope in blood of patients that are taking diatomaceous earth. That is the last thing that you want in your body. So I never, never, ever recommend diatomaceous earth. People like it because it's cheap. It's sold to them for various reasons, but there's just much healthier products that you can take to achieve your detox goals.
We've been going at this for a while. I'm ready to kind of get into my wrap-up questions, but I wanted to, is there anything that maybe we didn't cover or that you wanted to talk about? I want to make sure I give you that opportunity.
No, I think we covered most of the things.
Everyone has all the solutions in just this one video, and we'll obviously kind of let them know how to reach out to you. All right. So first question from the wrap-up questions. Do you have a target age that you want to live to?
Yeah, I think 105 sounds pretty good. Yeah, I think after that, I think, our bodies tend to start not working as well. So, a lot of aches and pains and stiffness and things like that. So I think I'm 105. I'm good.
My mom was telling me she was in the doctor's office, either when she was working there or just when she was on a visit. I don't remember exactly. And a nurse asked this kind of guy, do you have any aches? And he's like, I'm 85. I ache
That's
everywhere.
all I got to say. Yeah. Yeah. My website actually used to be called live110.com. And I had so many people emailing in like, I don't want to live to 110.
So many people are like, I don't want to live longer. And it's interesting because if you change the question, right? And you're like, Wendy, if you had the same mental capacity that you have today and you had the same physical capacity that you have today, would you then be interested in living to 125 or 150 or beyond? And not everyone, because some people I think need to do more evaluations of their lives, but that changes the mindset. We currently cannot separate living older from living in some sort of infirmed state. And, that's part of what I'm trying to do with this podcast and the book. And let's make a change and then, support the science that supports that kind of vision.
Yeah, and I totally understand that when you see so many people living such a poor quality of life when they're doing it through conventional medical care. And so for me, that's why I talk so much about detox, so much about bioenergetics, so that you can live a really high quality of life, in your elderly years. Like for me, I'm 52. I feel so much better than I did in my 20s. I mean, I feel so much better on many different levels. And it's because I've been detoxing the past 15 years. And so I feel like, I look young for 52. I feel good. I exercise every day. I have better brain function than I did in my 20s because I spent most of my 20s. I had mercury fillings removed like 5 from a regular dentist when I was 21. And I think that contributed to a lot of different issues that I was having and brain fog and depression and things like that. I think people have to kind of get out of their paradigm of just because someone else is living a miserable life in their 60s and 70s, that doesn't mean you have to make that choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have options.
How long do you think humans can live?
You know what? I am very open to the possibilities. I've seen or read about anecdotes of people living a few hundred years, and I'm certain that that's the case. I really am. The evidence that we see is that people are living, 110 actually seems to be kind of like the max, like in the blue zones. But I'm very open to the possibilities, and especially when people are living into the next 20 years. And I think with the advent of addressing your body through bioenergetics, and a lot of the research that's going to be, or research or discoveries made by AI, I think we're going to be breaking a lot of barriers in longevity, and people are going to be able to live much, much, much longer in the technology that we're going to see in the next, 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Fingers crossed. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
What
if the AI doesn't destroy the planet?
Yeah. It first saves us and allows us to live very, very long, and then wipes us out.
Have you seen Terminator?
I always like to say I would like to be the first to welcome our computer overlords and ask how I could be of service. What 2 to 3 protocols, habits, mindsets, let's call them shortcuts because everybody likes shortcuts, would you share regarding longevity and living a long health span?
Yeah, so infrared sauna, for sure, absolutely. So the research on infrared saunas shows there was a study in Finland that was done over 25 years, I believe, where they showed that people that use an infrared sauna 5 times a week had a 40% reduction in mortality from all causes. And if they use it 3 times a week, they had a 25% reduction in mortality from all causes. And that's just from getting in a sauna and sweating. It couldn't be easier. It's very, very pleasurable, very easy to do. And I prefer infrared saunas, but the kind of the Swedish or Finnish saunas that are they're just hot, that you find at most of your gyms, just that alone. Now, you can't stay in them very long because they're so hot. Infrared saunas heat you up from the inside out, so the ambient air temperature isn't so hot, so it's more tolerable. You can stay in it longer. But I think that in the study they just did 20 minutes, 20-minute sessions. So that is, yeah, huge.
You may be referencing a different study, the Finnish study, which showed, I think, even better stats than what you just shared, was in a traditional, Finnish or Swedish sauna, right?
Yeah, it was in a traditional sauna. Yeah.
Yeah. And I did hear, I don't know if you've heard this, that the sweat from a red light sauna has more toxins in it, which is a great story. Like, I don't know if you'd love to believe that. And, I believe it until I see data on it. And then I'd be interested. I don't know if you've heard anything like that.
Oh, yeah. No, there's tons of research on that. I interviewed Daniel Root on my podcast. He has a book, and his father actually developed the detox protocols used by the military. He was actually employed by the military to detox people, and he has all the data, all the research. I think his book is called Get Detoxinated. I believe that's his website, and he has a whole course you can take. He has all that data that shows that infrared saunas, far infrared, does produce more toxins in the sweat, but it's a very specific protocol using niacin and using glutathione and other specific products to. It's not just the sweating. You have to give the body nutrients and antioxidants to get this garbage out of the body. Most people are very deficient in glutathione, in vitamin C, vitamin E, which helps to recycle glutathione, and niacin helps to, get that blood going and the circulation going. So it's a very, very specific protocol that you can find with Daniel Root's work.
As always, I have more homework coming out of an interview. All right, so protocols. You've got near infrared or infrared sauna. Well, maybe two others.
Yeah, so definitely working on emotional trauma is going to dramatically improve longevity, because there's a tremendous amount of research. Professor Bessel van der Kolk, who wrote The Body Keeps the Score, and many, Gabor Mate, and just so many other researchers out there that show that emotional trauma causes disease. It causes cancer, autoimmune. And so when you work on your emotional trauma using bioenergetics, that will dramatically reduce your incidence of health issues and disease and low energy production, etc. And so with emotional trauma, like, what is that exactly? So emotional traumas are frequencies in your body's energy field that can be measured. And it's funny, when I do Nest scans on people, these bioenergetic scans, we can see exactly what emotional traumas they have and exactly what organ is being impacted by that emotional trauma. And you can release it very easily using frequencies. So you have to fight fire with fire. So a frequency in your energy field that's a result of an emotional trauma, something that happened in childhood, many of which you're not consciously aware of, are still residing in your energy field, and you have to use a specific frequency to release that. And that's why Nest Health Bioenergetics works so well. It's because it's addressing the emotional traumas. Wow. And so there's many ways to work with frequencies to release emotional traumas, but Nest Health is just one protocol that you can use.
Okay, wow, that sounds powerful. And do you happen to have a third?
Yes. So the next one that I would recommend is cutting out seed oils. So seed oils are a toxin to our body. They're very inflammatory. They're in all of the food. I mean, and if you're eating out, you're eating seed oils. If you're eating at all these healthy vegetables at Whole Foods, they're all drenched in canola oil. And so 50% of heart attacks and heart disease is attributed to seed oils. And so just cutting out seed oils alone is going to dramatically reduce your inflammation and all the different health issues associated with seed oils. They're also full of mercury, full of genetically modified ingredients, full of pesticides as well. They're highly oxidized, rancid, just really destroy your health.
So the infrared sauna, we've got work on emotional trauma and get rid of seed oils. I think that's pretty awesome. All right. How about 1 to 2 things that people get absolutely wrong about longevity and a long health span?
Well, I think the number one thing is that when you have a physical issue, thinking that the solution is also only physical. So many times when I see people having a physical issue, say they have low energy or they have pain or they have backaches or things like that, many times that is emotional trauma. And so by, addressing things, addressing emotional trauma, you can release a lot of, release that emotional trauma and successfully address that physical health issue.
Excellent.
Like for instance, so I had suffered from lower back pain for many years. Chiropractors, physical therapists, just such an obscene amount of money spent on that. And it was only on my right side. And then I realized at some point that if you have lower back pain on your right side, that means you're not getting male support. You're not getting support maybe from your father. On the left side, it's the mother. So I just had this huge revelation, and then I was able to release that. And it was so profound. So I was at the point where I could barely go on a walk because my back would always hurt. And then I had this, this energy worker I was working with release that trauma. The next day I flew to Costa Rica for my 50th birthday, and I was able to walk 6 miles through the rainforest. And there's no way that could have ever happened. There's no way I had a physical resolution of that. It was an emotional trauma that released my back pain.
Awesome. And maybe something else that people get absolutely wrong?
Yes. So also that you have to detox your body. So if you want to live a long, healthy life, you do have to detox. I think I drove that point home pretty clearly on the show. But removing all these toxins is going to improve your blood sugar regulation. It's going to improve your sleep. It's going to improve your energy production. For many people, they don't have the energy to heal their body. So you have to have energy to heal your body. And heavy metals and chemicals get into your mitochondria and disrupt all the different machinery and mechanisms and enzymes that are needed to produce ATP. So if you can't produce energy to heal your body, you're just going to be behind the 8 ball no matter what health issue you're dealing with. You need energy for your immune system to function, to regenerate when you're sleeping. Sleeping is a very energy intensive process. So you also, when you're under a lot of toxin stress, when you're under you have a big toxin load, you're going to be your body is going to be in stress mode. You're going to be releasing a lot of stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, etc. So just all of the above is going to dramatically increase your lifespan and your quality of life. So detoxification is really key.
Okay, excellent. So 1, believing that physical issues need to be solved with physical solutions. And then if you're not detoxing, that's a big problem. Wendy, how can people reach you?
Yes. Well, you can find me on my website on myersdetox.com. I have the Myers Detox podcast where we go, deep dives with all different types of experts on all these topics: detox, anti-aging, bioenergetics. And you can find me on all the social media at Myers Detox. Myers
Detox. And then that's MYERS Detox, right?
Yes.
Excellent. And what in the near future are you excited about?
Really I'm really focused on researching bioenergetics, all different types of bioenergetic modalities, using bioenergetics for healing. I think that holds the biggest promise to really get to the underlying root cause of so many people's health issues. Because let's take your immune system. A lot of people have immune system dysfunction for various reasons. But with bioenergetics, you can go in and just feed your body correct information, like correct operating instructions for a perfectly functioning immune system. And you see a lot of different immune-related health issues resolve. And so it's just a very, very simple concept. It's very complex, science behind bioenergetics. And there's a lot of different modalities where you can scan your body, see everything that's wrong with you, and just and correct it with frequencies. And so it holds a lot of promise. It's the main thing that I use for my health. And I just see profound results with it. All my colleagues that are doctors, when they learn about bioenergetics, they switch to these different types of modalities and very sophisticated software to help their patients. And I think that that's really the future. So even for like your vitamins and minerals, you can feed your body the frequencies of all the vitamins and minerals and can get rid of supplements.
Wow.
I still take supplements, because I think that we still have to take care of our physical body. So I still take supplements, but I also send my body frequencies for various things that I feel like I need. Some people don't absorb and utilize certain nutrients physically, but you can feed your body the frequency and the body doesn't really know the difference. So that's just one example, but it's really profound when you start getting into it, how much bioenergetics can, help your health and help to reverse a lot of physical health issues that modern medicine says there's nothing that can be done. And I don't personally believe that. I think no matter what health issue you have or diagnosis, there's someone out there that is dramatically improving that condition, if not reversing it 100% with bioenergetics.
Yeah, that seems to be as I interview more and more experts, that there are people out here solving problems that the medical community is like, these are unsolvable. Like this, it's I find it absolutely amazing. All right, well, you can find her at MyersDetox.com. That's MYERS detox.com. Also Myers Detox on the social media platforms. That's IG. That's probably Facebook. Maybe TikTok. Some people are on TikTok. Yeah, also on TikTok.
I'm on TikTok too.
Wendy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Live Beyond the Norms podcast. Make sure to subscribe and follow. Also, make sure not to be that guy, the guy sharing this podcast with people who are not interested in living beyond the norms. If you would like to learn more about the ESS60 molecule, the molecule responsible for the single longest longevity experimental result on mammals in history, a full 90% extension of life, visit myvitalc.com. That's myvitalc as in carbon.com.